Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming to this morning's Bhagavatam class. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 14. We'll be covering two verses today, text number 45 and text number 46. Yeah, 45 is on the board. Before we do that, we recite invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text number 45, and we'll be concluding this chapter today. Tam tu te vanatam dinam kim karomi ti vadinam nishideti abruvamastata sa nishada tato bhava. Tam tu te vanatam dinam kim karomi ti vadinam nishideti abruvam stata sa nishada tato bhava. Tam tu devanatam dinam kim karomi ti vadinam nishideti abruvam stata sa nishada tato bhava. Word for word. Tam, unto him. Tu, then. Te, the sages. Avanatam, bowed down. Deenam, meek. Kim, what? Karomi, shall I do? Iti, thus. Vadinam, inquiring. Nishida, just sit down. Iti, thus. Abruvan, they replied. Tata, my dear Vidura. Sa, he. Nishadaha, of the name Nishada. Tataha, thereafter. Abhavat, became. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Abhay Chanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. He was very submissive and meek, and immediately after his birth, he bowed down and inquired, Sirs, what shall I do? The great sages replied, Please sit down, Nishida. Thus, Nishada, the father of the Naishada race, was born. Purport. It is said in the Shastras that the head of the body represents the Brahmanas, the arms represent the Kshatriyas, the abdomen represents the Vaishyas, and the legs, beginning with the thighs, represent the Shudras. The Shudras are sometimes called black or Krishna. The Brahmanas are called Shukla or white. And the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas are a mixture of black and white. However, those who are extraordinarily white are said to have skin produced out of white leprosy. It may be concluded that our white or golden hue is the color of the higher caste, and black is the complexion of the Shudras. So we'll read text 46 as well. Tasya vamsha tu naishadang girikana nagocharaha yena harajayamano vena kalma samulbanam. After his Nishada's birth, he immediately took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. As such, this Naishada class are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. Consequently, they are only allowed to live in the hills and forests. Purport. The Naishadas are not allowed to live in cities and towns because they are sinful by nature. As such, their bodies are very ugly, and their occupations are also sinful. We should, however, know that even these sinful men, who are sometimes called Kiratas, can be delivered from their sinful condition to the topmost Vaishnava platform by the mercy of a pure devotee. Engagement in the transcendental loving devotional service of the Lord can make anyone, however sinful he may be, fit to return home back to Godhead. One has only to become free from all contamination by the process of devotional service. In this way, everyone can become fit to return home back to Godhead. This is confirmed by the Lord Himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.32. Mam hi pyata vipashitya ye pishu papayo yanaya striyo vaishya tata shudra te piyanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, as well as Shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purpose of the 4th canto, 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Story of King Vena. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatirubhascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We'll read these two translations. 45, Canto 4, Chapter 14, Text 45. He was very submissive and meek, and immediately after his birth he bowed down and inquired, Sirs, what shall I do? The great sages replied, Please sit down, Nishira. Thus, Nisharaha, the father of Naishara race, was born. After his Nishara's birth, he immediately took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. As such, this Naishara class are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. Consequently, they are only allowed to live in the hills and forests. So quite a lot of interesting points in these two verses, purpose as well. Just to start off with, it talks of the Naishada race or the Nishara clan, or the group of people that actually belong to these. And as I was reading through, there are two instances in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata that this group of people or this class of people have been mentioned. Any guesses who? Guha, yes, in Ramayana, Guha is actually mentioned, who's belonging to this race. And in Mahabharata, it's actually very famous. When you hear it, you'll be like, oh, Ekalavya. So Ekalavya in the Mahabharata, Mahabharata is actually in a modern folklore, it's said the Iliad of Odyssey as the greatest piece of literature. Mahabharata is considered to be the magnum opus of even that. So in the Mahabharata, there's a story. We'll speak on that a little and then expand on the points that have been made here. It is said that in this, we know of Arjuna in the Mahabharata, and the Pandavas had a teacher called Dronacharya. So Dronacharya, he's been appointed to teach the sons to the family of the Kurus, and it described that Arjuna was his favorite student. Arjuna was very determined, and Arjuna would follow every word of Dronacharya, as attentively as he could. In fact, there are many places where Arjuna displays his prowess. One that I remember, if I'm remembering the facts correctly, is that Dronacharya is testing all of the 5 brothers, and the test. So the test is that he has an imitation bird on the tree, and they're all asked to take aim and then shoot into the imitation eyes. It's imitation bird and imitation eyes. So each of the Pandavas are asked, and then when they're taking their aim, they're describing what do they see, how will they actually accomplish it. And I think one says, I can see the branches, I can see the tree right next to it, I can see this and that. And then when it comes to Arjuna, they ask him, what do you see? Only the eyes. So, and he shoots it just with one setting, and the eyes, it's an imitation bird. So don't feel otherwise. Now, in Arjuna, He's an expert archer, and he's pleased Drona, his teacher, to such a degree that Drona tells him that there'll be no other archer other than you on this planet. I mean, I'll teach you all the secrets, and and he trains him. And whilst he's training Arjuna, it is described that the prince of this Naishada race, Ekalavya, has this desire to learn from Dronacharya. So he approaches Dronacharya and he tells him, please teach me. And Dronacharya says no. Now, there are external reasons and there are internal reasons. The external reason is that because you do not belong to the Kshatriya, race, to the race of, those that actually trained to be in military and in warfare and diplomats. So you're not trained, you don't have that inclination. So he rejects him. However, there are deeper reasons. And the other reason is that the race that Ekalavya belonged to, the Naishada race, they were antagonistic to the king that was ruling at that time, who has appointed Dronacharya. So they were disobedient to the king of the state and to the kingdom and the rulership as such. So he said no. And again, as the story unfolds, there are many reasons due to which Dronacharya tells him no, you're not capable of being, or you're not qualified to be my student. So Ekalavya is hurt and he doesn't want to take no for an answer. So he goes, as the verse described, they live deep in the forest. So he goes and lives in the forest and he builds an effigy of Dronacharya. So like a clay-like figure of Dronacharya, worshipping him like a guru, because he accepts him as a guru in his heart, and he starts practicing archery, whilst taking blessings from this effigy. Some also say that actually he would, while Drona was teaching the Pandavas, he would hide behind the trees and see, and actually watch the lessons, and then he would learn from that. So both are described. But it's described in due course of time, he becomes such an expert archer. I mean, he learns the art so perfectly that one day, while he's practicing, he hears a dog barking. And the dog doesn't stop barking, and he gets so irritated by the barking of the dog that without even seeing where the dog is at, he just, he has 7 arrows in his quiver, he takes them out and he shoots at the dog, and it seals the dog's mouth, so the dog stops barking. The Pandavas, they are around there, and then this Arjuna sees this like, oh, who is this person? He has sealed the dog's mouth. Then he comes and now the dog is a harmless animal, right? It's just their nature to bark. So why would you punish someone, so brutally? So Arjuna goes to Ekalavya and he asks him, oh, who are you? You seem to be an expert archer. Then he says, actually, I'm a disciple of Drona, who is the same teacher, of Arjuna. I'm a disciple of Drona, and I have learned this art, and I'm wanting to be the best of the archer. So Arjuna, when he hears it, he becomes, firstly, he says that Drona, he's not aware of a student of Drona who's been learning in the forest. Secondly, he notices that because of his very act of harming an innocent animal, he has the skill, but he doesn't have those qualities. So we'll read further about the qualities of these different varnas, these castes, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. So he goes to Dronacharya and he tells Dronacharya, have you been training someone else? It seems to be that there is another student of yours. And he's like, no. He's like, there's a student named Ekalavya who's actually learning this science of archery by worshipping you, in that form, of your deity or of your effigy. Then Dronacharya understands that something is not right. So then he tells Arjuna, okay, now you come to me. come with me. Let's go and see the student. So they go to see Ekalavya, and Ekalavya, the moment he sees Dronacharya from a distance, he, offers his dandavats, he prostrates, obeisances, and he submits to Dronacharya, I'm your student, please bless me. And Dronacharya said, no, you're not my student. I reject it. I told you, you don't have the qualities. Ekalavya says, I'm sorry, my teacher, then I will do whatever you ask me to do. And then it's described at that moment, Dronacharya paused for a moment, considering that this student, they have disrespected the kingdom. They're averse to the king. Secondly, he's killed a harmless animal. I mean, not killed, but he's actually sealed the mouth of a harmless animal. He doesn't have the character. So Drona tells him, okay, if you respect me and if you are grateful to me, then I ask you for, in Sanskrit, it's called Guru Dakshina, which is offer me something as a token of gratitude. So, we offer our teacher, our well-wishers, those who have helped us, we offer them some, we try to express our gratitude in a way that would be befitting them. So he's like, okay, offer me, as a token of gratitude, I ask you for Guru Dakshina. He tells them, okay, what's the Guru Dakshina? He says, cut off your right thumb. So that thumb which you use for your, to pull back your bow, cut off that thumb. And described at that very moment, Ekalavya, without even hesitating, takes a knife and just cuts off his thumb. Now, in modern day today, Ekalavya has been glorified as having that one-pointed dedication to his guru, to his teacher. But if you look at it deeply, if he was that obedient to his teacher, why didn't he select the first instruction? It's glorious because obviously we give credit to where it's due. He cut off his finger. He sacrificed his shooting career or his archery prowess, but he actually was disobedient to the guru in the first place. So a lot of times, especially in a modern society today, we are fantasized by the idea of a self-made person, self-taught. I'll learn everything on my own. I don't need a teacher. I don't need to submit myself to anyone. I don't need to put myself under someone's control. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Then, but the tradition or the teachings actually say that you have to. The teacher more than bhakti is more than the teaching of text. It's a living tradition. That means you learn through the teachings that they're actually exemplifying by their character. So, and that didn't stop Ekalavya, even though where his finger was chopped, he wasn't able to practice with his right hand. Guess what does he do? He starts practicing with his left hand. And then later on, he went and joined the opposite army of the Pandavas, the Kauravas, to fight against the Pandavas. I mean, it is described that Krishna actually, purified him by killing him before the war, so he actually attained, the spiritual destination. But many things come to point here is that was Arjuna insecure of seeing another archer equal in prowess to him? No, because like I said earlier, he actually considered the totality of his prowess, not only being a skilled archer, but he actually was lacking in that character. If he was to carry on like that, later on, if he had the skills and the resources, he would have caused harm by killing or by attacking innocent people, which would have brought about bad karma or bad karmic reactions, and because of that he would have had to suffer much more. So this Drona, sometimes people say he was very narrow-minded because he didn't want to help Ekalavya because he was not a Kshatriya. But the same Dronacharya taught the science of military art to Drishtyadumna, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, who ended up killing Drona. So Dronacharya was actually very liberal, but he he understood by giving power to this Ekalavya, who's not qualified, will actually bring more harm to Ekalavya than actually good. So a lot of times things are taken out of context. We just focus on one thing, that, oh, he cut off his hand, his thumb, he's a greater student than Arjuna, but that's not the case. So plucking things out of context always causes confusion. So it is recommended for us to at least see different perspectives, see different contexts, and then come to an understanding. Now that was the history of Ekalavya, and only being because he belongs to this Naishada class. The other example that's given is in the Ramayana of Guha. So it's said that when Ram and Bharat and Ram, Lakshman and Sita, when they went to the forest for exile, the very first stop that they make is actually they are greeted by Guha, who's the king of the forest of this Naishara class, and he offers Ramchandra. He says that, for the entire 14 years that you've been exiled, now you can stay in my forest. And he went ahead and prepared a bed of leaves. He made sure, looked after the comforts of Lord Ram. So by serving Lord Ram, he and his associates became most dear to Ram. Now, just wanted to make a point because I'd heard this from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. In text 45, you quite often see, it may be concluded that white or golden hue is the color of the higher caste and black is the complexion of the Shudras. So when we read statements like these, like, yes, I told you this is discrimination. And then in the following verse, you see again, those who are low born, they get, again, have to look at the context, but the conclusion is that bhakti makes those who even have the least qualification, gives them an opportunity to perfect their lives. So the Vedic times that's being described here, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was saying that during the time, obviously, the Mahabharata war had done, they were not ideal times, because if it was ideal, Krishna would not have descended. So Krishna is coming at that time to fix something that is broken or that needs to be addressed. So, and a lot of time low-born doesn't only, low-born means those who are also not of the human species, other than human species, and also those who are outside of the Vedic culture. We know the story of Haridas Thakur. He's belonging to, a non-Vedic tradition. He's born into the Muslim community, but still, he's been crowned as a Namacharya, as the one who has actually preached the glories of the holy name. Now, in this purport, towards the end, we see this verse, very famous verse, and also quite a times quoted, out of context. Mam hi partha vipashitya ye pishu papayonaya striyo vaishya tata sudra tepi yanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter of me, though they be of lower birth, women, vaishyas, merchants, as well as shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. Now at first face value you may think, oh look, but what someone doesn't see, what Krishna is claiming to be, nothing of this world can stop you from achieving the topmost perfection. Now when we speak of castes, right, in the previous verse, those having a certain complexion belong to the higher caste. In our modern day thinking, when we think of something being higher, we look at it the lens of entitlement, exploitation. A lot of time we think, oh, higher just means I'm entitled and I can exploit. That's just how the society that actually breathes into us. But if you really, really want to understand what do the higher classes represent, then we turn to the 18th chapter of the Gita, Brahmanas. Samo damas tapa saucham shanti rajavam evachaha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Shauryam, Tejo, Dhritir, Daksham, Yude Chape Apalayanam, Dhanam, Ishvara Bhavascha, Shatram Karma Svabhavajam. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Shri Gorakshavaniyam Vaishya Karma Svabhavajam Paricharyatmakam Karma Sudrajishapi Svabhavajam. Farming, car protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras there are labor and service to others. So higher classes means higher accountability, higher sense of responsibility. Even a slight misapplication or slight discrepancy on their part can actually tarnish the image, and they're furthermore scrutinized. So that's what Krishna says in the Gita. Again, Chaturvinam Mahashishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. Krishna also says in the Gita, everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the modes he or she has acquired. So we are forced to act helplessly, which means there is certain qualities by which we are impelled and we are forced to work. Work doesn't only mean for the work that for which we actually receive a salary, but work just means the qualities, and that's what these qualities that have been described in the 18th chapter. Now, because this idea of egalitarian society is predominant and large, and obviously there's been a lot of exploitation. But Varnashrama system, today what we see is a perverted reflection because it's been carried on, it's been broadcasted as a birthright, if you're born. For example, sometimes people say that those who are born in an Indian body, they are naturally more austere. Austerities come naturally to them. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu was saying, look at it the other way, because in India, spiritual culture is very, is actually more, it's more mainstream, or actually that's what's been spoken of. Those that have the karma or who had the inclination to be more spiritually inclined, they take their birth in Bharatavarsha, and because of their previous yogic-like lifestyle, they're more inclined to do austerities rather than just being in a certain body. Now again, Varnashrama is there for a reason, because Krishna says, Maya Shrishtam, nature actually creates these classifications for you to work. So, we see many civilizations, the Mayan civilization, the Aztec civilization, the Chinese civilization. How much of it is actually still prevalent today? Not much. But the Vedic civilization, you still see traces of it. And because that civilization that was centered on Varnashrama was based on qualities, and because it was meant to foster a sense of community, a sense of not, a lot of times we carry the slogan for independence, but that interdependence where that sense of interdependence would bring about, like I said, community, love, reciprocation. And it's just very natural. Those who are, let's say, once, it's a funny story, His Holiness Radha Swami was speaking at, I think, some university in India. And that crowd, halfway through Radha Swami's talk, they became very aggressive. What is this Swami doing here? Why are you speaking to us? You're just speaking about renunciation. Leave, because this is not what we are actually here for. And Radha Swami, just in a very endearing way, So you're saying, no, then the student said, if you speak like that, everyone in the world would become a Swami. And the world would be a horrible place, as per them. Maharaj just looked at him. I think it was one person or maybe a group of people. And he was actually speaking to a group of chartered accountants. And Maharaj just told him, how would the world be if everyone in this world was an accountant? No one would ever spend any money. You just wouldn't be able to do anything. And then the student didn't have any answer. He's like, as there's a place for you as an accountant, there's also a place for small swamis like me. So there's a place for everyone, but that place is actually determined by qualities. For example, if it's a group of friends and they're all they're really driven by hunger and they want to have some food. So naturally they'll find someone within their group who can cook or who has much better culinary abilities and ask that person to cook. So that hierarchy is there, not because that hierarchy is not that because that oldest person in the group should cook or because this person's mom or their parents cook very nicely and they can cook. It's just because based on who can actually cook will actually have that opportunity to do that. So we see that hierarchy, and that hierarchy exists only because to foster a sense of to have order or for things to run. Prabhu was saying that, for example, like it says here, right, in the previous verse, black is the complexion of the Shudra. So would that mean, let's say if we take a continent like Africa, and play a country in Africa, and in that country in Africa, let's say if everyone was of blackish complexion, does it mean that they're all Shudras, that there won't be any people there who are actually ministers, who are actually, who can do higher duties? That's not the case, right? I mean, it'll still be based on the qualities that they are. So the underlying point here that is repeatedly emphasized in the Bhagavatam, that bhakti has the power and the potency to actually make those who didn't have that access to perfection, it actually gives them an opportunity. So in the same Bhagavatam, who are glorified the most? The gopis, the wives of the cowherdsmen who've abandoned their husbands. As per Vedic tradition, if you abandon your partner, if you abandon your husband, you're considered to be socially outcast. Those gopis are considered to be the topmost devotees of the Lord. So bhakti is inverted. So this Vedic civilization or this Vedic culture that we speak of here, it has its relevance. And like I said here, there's so many civilizations that have come and gone. But what we've been given, this unique gift by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it actually come to pass. So we focus on the positive and we take from it that no matter the kama sarva kama, no matter whatever your desires are, you just approach Krishna. And in that way we achieve perfection. So there are many instances in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Bhagavatam, Gajendra, who's an elephant, offers beautiful praise. Prahlad Maharaj, the son of the demoniac king. So like that, a lot of times, especially in sports today, if there are two teams that are competing, one team is considered to be the favorite and the other team is considered to be the underdogs. So media and, we don't gamble, but those that actually place bets, they place a bigger bet on the underdog. So if the underdog wins, then it's a bigger win. So similarly, bhakti or Krishna consciousness, actually gives the opportunity to turn the backbenchers, those who are far behind, to come to the front. So that's the unique gift that we should be grateful to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to Srila Prabhupada and Acharyas. So I'll end here. Thank you for your attention. If anyone has any question or comment. Yes, Prabhu. I think 2 weeks ago, I think maybe it was you or someone asked the question, what happened to King Vena? And I think Ishwareshwar Prabhu was here. And he said that King Vena did not get, because he was cursed by the Brahmanas, so he actually didn't get he didn't get a higher birth. I mean, that's what I understood from Ishwareshwar Prabhu. I didn't get a chance to look at it. But if you see it clearly, King Vena had already left. And what the sages did was that they churned the thighs. One part of the body, as you may say, is from where Bahuka or Nishara came. And actually the other part, which is the pious part, from there you'll see in the next chapter King Prithu comes. So, now there's a backstory to King Vena. I'll just maybe take a minute to say it. Maybe you've heard it, but this was described by Burijan Prabhu, and it's described in the Padma Purana, that King Vena is the son of who? King Anga and Sunita, right? King Anga is very pious. And King Sunita, who is she a daughter of? Yamaraj. So how is there, how can she be, she's the daughter of Yamaraj, so how can she be, sinful? But it's described when Sunita was small, when she was young, she actually would imitate her father. And she would imitate her father. And one day she was in the forest and she saw a Gandharva, a heavenly being, practicing austerities. And she started to, disturb him, to break him from his penance. The Gandharva tolerated. But the next day she went and I think she either slapped him or did something, just really shook him up, where he had to come off his meditation. And he told her, what are you doing? And she told him that I'm the daughter of Yamaraj and my father punishes only those that are wicked, but he protects the religious. Then he said, because you've disturbed me and you've caused, it's a sinful reaction, your son will actually have been inherit, all these sinful qualities, and will, I think he also said he'll initiate a race, from which that's what's carrying on from then. But in answer to your question, did his mind, intelligence, and ego go with it? It'll depend on where did King Vena go after this, which I'm just not aware. Anything else? Thank you. Grantra Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nita Go Premanandi, Hari Bol, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.